Hey, howdy everyone. It's Dave with Chewy's Backyard Farm. Uh, it's the Sunday before Memorial Day. I think it's May the 26th. And anyway, I've been out here doing chores, um, which we do every day, moving chickens, feeding chickens. And I've just been thinking about things, like I do a lot when I'm out working. And I just wanted to kind of talk about Memorial Day. Um, Memorial Day is not Veterans Day, first off. A lot of people get it confused. I did hear a survey where I think it was over half of the nation didn't really know the meaning of Memorial Day. And that bothered me a lot. And the reason it bothered me is because I come from a family that on my mother's side lost a member of their family in World War II. He never came home. Um, he paid the ultimate sacrifice for me and for all of us. And every Memorial Day, actually every day, I think of that sacrifice. I'm a Christian. I think about Jesus' sacrifice every day as well, but I think about his sacrifice every day because I was in the military. I'm retired Air Force. When I first came in the military, I thought it wasn't like this. It was kind of dumb, I thought, the flag and all the pomp and ceremony. But then the longer I got in it and the more I started thinking about it, it actually means something. So every Memorial Day, we need to reflect and think about our men and women that have gave the ultimate sacrifice for our country. They actually died during war, or even some in peacetime. My family member, my mother's mother, my grandmother, was her brother. His name was Walter Martin. He was enlisted staff sergeant. He came from a family of 4 brothers and 1 sister. His sister was my grandmother, Violet Smith. They all grew up very poor in rural Clay County, Kentucky. I remember asking my grandmother about the Depression, and she laughed at me. She's like, "What was the Depression? We were poor before it, we were poor during it, we were poor after it." But anyway, this family sent 3 boys, sent 3 boys off to war. One of them didn't come home. Walter Martin was a staff sergeant in the 13th Bomber Group in the Southern Pacific. He was a radio operator on a B-24. If you know anything about history, B-24s were one of the most dangerous bombers to fly in. They just were not designed to withstand the flight characteristics that the B-17 did. Now the B-17, of course, and I'm getting on a tangent, but the B-17 was survivable during combat. The B-24 was, on the other hand, it had problems with its wings. It had problems if you ditched, it would flood. But anyway, they made them in mass numbers. They made way more B-24s than they did B-17s, thanks to Ford and Willow Run in Detroit, which you could look that up. The Arsenal of Democracy really was part of the B-24. But anyway, back to how it touches my life. So Walter Martin enlisted I guess he enlisted in the service. They chose him to go in the Army Air Forces, and he was a radio operator on a B-24. Now I know all this because I've got my great-grandmother, Zelphie Martin, saved every one of his letters from the day that he went in to the very last letter, which was in May of 44. He, like I said, he was a radio operator, but he wasn't on the standard crew of just bombing like in the 8th Air Force or whatever. He was in the 13th Bomb Group, and I can't find out a lot about him until I really started digging. And it seems that his crew was a specially trained crew that did top secret bombing on Japan. And he was in the South Pacific in the Chuuk Islands, or the Truk Islands is where they sent him. Their job was to bomb the maritime shipping the Japanese were shipping. So basically Japanese cargo ships or Japanese battleships at night using radar. Now radar was in its infancy at this time, and this was a top secret operation. That's why I can't find out a lot about him. There's a book written about him called Snoopers. That was their code name. So Walter was assigned to this bomb group, and they bombed at night. They bombed using radar. And from the missing aircrew report that I did research on, his aircraft was struck by anti-aircraft fire or a night fighter. According to the missing aircrew report, all they seen was this airplane basically blow up into a ball of flame. And then they gave the coordinates of where it was. It's somewhere in the Chuuk. It's actually a small island in the Chuuk Islands, in what's called now Micronesia. It's actually an American territory. They never recovered his body. He has a headstone in the Philippines. It's actually part of a mausoleum, but that's his only marker is there in the Philippines. I remember my grandmother, and I don't know why it affected me so much, but I remember my grandmother had his watch, his stopwatch, or not his pocket watch, in her whatnot cabinet. And it really, I asked her about it, and she said, well, he never came home. That's all he ever said. I think that I know that my great-grandmother really believed that he would come home, but he never did. So, being from a family that actually lost a loved one, that there's lots of families that lost loved ones, but when you lose one and they never return the remains, or they can't tell you where a grave is, because after World War II, a lot of the fallen soldiers were actually reinterred, or if that's the right phrase, they were actually brought home and buried in a local cemetery, so their family could have closure. They were never able to bring Walter's remains home. I actually have going in the military, like I said, it made me realize what was going on. Especially one of my temporary duties was I was stationed in Okinawa, Japan for 3 years, and I actually went on one of our temporary duties was to Thailand to work with the Joint Task Force Full Accounting, where they were actually searching for remains from the Vietnam War, and we actually did bring home some remains, which was very important for the family. And it hits home because at that time it didn't really realize, it didn't dawn on me, hey, I'm a family of a missing airman, and they never got closure. So I don't want his memory to be forgotten. He was a young man. He was probably in his early 20s. He was obviously very smart because they put him in a radio operator, which was Morse code, just very tough to learn. All of his letters are jovial, full, and more, we're flying here, we're doing this, I got a great crew, I love what I'm doing, that stuff, until he arrives in the South Pacific, and then it turns a little bit dark. It's like he was scared. And I know he was. You're getting on these airplanes, these men they got on these airplanes, and they didn't know if they were going to come home, and he didn't. They got on these airplanes and flew in dark, and flew against great odds, and did their job, and a lot of them that did come home never talked about it. And now we need to remember this. We need to keep that memory alive. I'm not a fan of war, but I think we have to remember war, because if we don't, we're destined to repeat it. These were our greatest generation. They gave everything. All of them gave, some gave all gave some, but some gave all, or I may have messed that up. But anyway, so on this Memorial Day, just take a moment. I know you can enjoy your hot dogs, your hamburgers, enjoy your time at the lake or by the pool, enjoy the summer. But remember, that's not why we're celebrating it. We're celebrating it because it's not a celebration, first off. It needs to be somber, or remembrance. Freedom's not free. I know. My family knows. Both sides of my family knows that freedom's not free. We've all served. We've all gave some sacrifice. So freedom isn't free. So on this Memorial Day, just take a moment. Pause at 3 o'clock tomorrow. It's Sunday today. Like I said, pause at 3 o'clock tomorrow and remember those fallen. And it's not Veterans Day. Don't thank a veteran. Thank them every other day but today. Take a moment to say, hey, let's memorialize or remember our fallen. And they'll thank you for that, because a lot of veterans understand that Memorial Day is not Veterans Day. And I would give you a charge as a human being, as another person on this planet. Be worthy of their sacrifice. Be someone that's worth dying for. Whatever it is, be worth someone that they want to give their life. They never knew you. Walter Martin never knew me, but he died for me. He never knew you, but he died for you. He didn't know it, but he did it. Because we're free. We're not speaking Japanese and we're not speaking German. We got the greatest country in the world for freedom, and it's not free. So, it's a somber time, but it's an important time. So take a moment and just remember. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe. I try to have things upbeat, but Memorial Day is pretty somber, and it needs to be respected, just like our flag needs to be respected. So God bless. God bless our troops. God protect our troops. And just remember all those fallen. Thanks.